Okay, boys and girls, ladies and gents, a brief message before I jump on a bike to pedal for dialysis. This message is especially for the rising generations. Sean, Ellie, and many others. Elena and Bobby. This is a special message. I'm an old guy. I sit in a room surrounded by people who are heading out of life. Amputees, people coming in beds, wheelchairs, getting weaker and weaker. It keeps me sober. Life is short, man. All of a sudden you spin around and you ain't 12 or 13 anymore. You're 55, and then it's all over. So here we go. All right. Here's what's going on in the world around us. Hyperinflation. They just announced to me that the price of coffee is now double. It's double. It's double what it was. Do you know about the hyperinflation in Germany? When they were putting the people under control? It's a mechanic of the bankers to put people under control. This is not some sort of like little mystical weird raising of prices. This is a deliberate and planned and designed thing. So stay calm. All right. In this situation where the hyperinflation is increasing, do not get all freaked out. Just increase in your connection with the spirit realm. All right. 1, 2, 3. What are the three big locomotives of the gospel choo-choo train? Number 1, hundreds of predictions set in writings. The predictions are scattered across 1,000 years, written by 30 people that didn't know each other. All these predictions came true in the life of one person, Jesus of Nazareth. That's a big problem. That means the spirit over the Hebrew scriptures, the spirit over the Tanakh, the spirit over the Torah is actually the spirit that knows your past, your future, and especially your invisible future, your afterlife. That spirit that set those predictions in the Tanakh loves you and adores you like a wonderful parent adores a little child who's starting to try to walk. That spirit who loves you doesn't care if you wobble or fall down. And if others get angry at you, and if you get angry at yourself, well, guess what? That spirit still loves you. Okay, so number 1, hundreds of predictions point to Yeshua. And the Koine Greek New Testament went to India. There's no way to prove that it was modified by the Roman government or by Constantine. The Koine Greek New Testament went to India, which was never under the Roman Empire, and it has been preserved precisely, word for word, as it was in the very, very earliest days. And if that supernatural spirit can set predictions in across 1,000 years, that supernatural spirit can also give perfect accounts to people, to write down perfect accounts of Yeshua of Nazareth 30 or 50 years later. Perfect accounts are impossible for humans to write, but perfect accounts can be motivated by a spirit from the spirit realm. And that's what you got. You've got a spirit from the spirit realm hovering over the Tanakh, the Old Testament, the Hebrew scriptures, and you've got a spirit that is the life-giving spirit, the spirit of loving kindness, the designing spirit, hovering over the writings called the Koine Greek New Testament. Get a Septuagint Bible into your house and read it. That is the original Hebrew translations written into Greek. Number 2, the rumor that he resurrected from the dead. The rumor is he was a very public figure, very publicly executed, and then very publicly seen across 40 days by select people and then by 500 people at once as he was disappearing up into the clouds. There's a rumor that this guy can beat death. If that's just a fairy tale, who cares? It doesn't matter. But if the rumor that he came back from the dead is true, then he actually knows your death and your afterlife. If he really did come back from the dead, then you should probably read his expressions and his writings that have been strangely and supernaturally preserved by his followers, yes, up to 30 to 50 years after he was gone, the accounts were written down. But that same supernatural spirit who set the predictions in place can actually overcome human beings and give beautiful, perfect accounts. No one ever explained this to me. Number 3, there's this guy who walks into town and he heals the whole hospital. That's what he's famous for, healing absolutely everyone. Read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Just read Mark, it's very short. Suddenly, everyone in town is healed. Suddenly, everyone with personality disorders has spirits removed from them. Everyone with personality disorders, everyone with mental disorders has spirits removed from them. The pharmaceutical industry has taken the minds of the world away from the problem of spirit beings and put it on the concept of chemicals, which means you can make money. It's witchcraft, sorcery. Yes, it is helpful in many circumstances, but it is dangerous because it's money-oriented and does not respect the spirit realm. The 3 big, powerful, pulling locomotives of the gospel choo-choo train. Hundreds of predictions. The rumor that he came back from the dead and appeared before eyewitnesses and taught how to create a new type of gathering. The predictions fulfilled is the greatest miracle. The resurrection from the dead cannot be proved right now, but you better be curious. The third thing is supernatural powers, but there's one other thing. If you've got supernatural powers, that's one thing. But to be able to just put your supernatural powers on an unenlightened person, that is a greater power. If you read Acts chapter 8, Simon the Sorcerer, it is the most marvelous Harry Potter style showdown with a wizard, a sorcerer. And he's amazed. Philip the Nobody, a commercial fisherman, is doing more powerful miracles than this famous sorcerer, and the sorcerer is blown away, and he wants those powers. That's the first part. The second part, don't worry about hyperinflation. Gather miracle videos. Go on YouTube. Go to The Last Reformation, Torben Sondergaard. Start putting in your own little playlist. Start stacking in a list that you can watch with you and your friends and your kids. Start making a list of miracle videos. Fielding Go Harvest is one of my favorite people. And the word harvest, the word Teresa, means harvest. So if you're a Teresa, you better do this. You personally gather miracle videos. and constantly watch them, because that is going to take your mind away from your comforts, your worries, your focusing on your own little comfortable protective environment where everything is nice and okay and you're staying away from trouble. Trouble is going to come after you, Jesus promises. In this world, you're going to have trouble, then you're going to have trouble on top of that trouble. And the biggest problem is many Christians and many unenlightened people, many people who are deceived and unwise, have no idea the kinds of trouble that they're in. You're in invisible trouble. Gather miracle videos and watch them. Saturate your mind with the miraculous while you actually watch the things that the Great Spirit is doing. This is very serious. This is a dead serious thing. Sean, Ellie, I care about you guys. I'm going to be dead. My freaking bones are going to be in the ground. This is a PowerPoint. Gather miracle videos. Set aside time to actually put together your own miracle video list and watch them over and over again, because it will keep your mind from being afraid of all the damned things that are going on in this world. Even if you're thrown in jail and you've got no device, the effect of all those miracle videos and being confident about what the Spirit who loves all humans is doing. The Spirit who loves all humans is motivating me to give you this talk. Okay, number one, gather miracle videos. Number two, meditate on Leviticus 15 for peace and unity of men and women. Fear and hiding is disunity. Meditate on Leviticus 15. Rewind your heart back to the Second Temple Judaism environment that Jesus and the commercial fishermen that he grew up with in northern Judea. Meditate on their lives. They're trying to follow the law of Moses. If they're trying to follow the law of Moses, read Leviticus 15 and Leviticus 12 as well. It's good to have that that side by side, because that Leviticus 12 teaches you that the women, the girl child, is supposed to be cared for and comforted in an extra special way. A boy child gets 40 days of comfort just alone with the mother, but the girl child gets 80 days. The boy child is circumcised on the 8th day. When Jesus resurrected, they called his resurrection day the 8th day because it blew everybody's minds. Everybody's hearts were circumcised to the fact that, oh my gosh, this guy really is God. He came back from the dead. That's why it's called the 8th day. The first day of the week, Sunday, it was shown that he was alive. And that is the circumcision of the heart day. That is what was taught for hundreds and hundreds of years. And that teaching is forgotten in Christianity. I never got it. I sought and sought for 24 years. I studied and studied. I sat underneath these pastors, some of whom were doing bad things and were misleading people. But I didn't complain. I just took notes. Meditate on Leviticus 15. Pretend you're a big happy family. And when a woman is in her cycle, you treat her special for 14 days. Now, I want to warn you. Look out. Retranslate the word unclean, untouchable in your heart. Unclean does not mean evil. If your friend or your family member is sick, they are not evil. It's a term that just means heads up. Heads up, something's going on. Heads up, something's going on. And Jesus reformed everything of the former covenant. And people are not teaching this. Especially the Jewish and Messianic atmospheres are not teaching that the shift is from battles against enemies of a tribe of people that are following a law, shifting to being enemies of spirits that have invaded the entire human family. Our job is to set the human family free. But when we go back and look at the law, Yeshua says no little detail in the law is going to become useless until I return. So that means if our society has problems with pornography, look, when I was a kid, I discovered pictures of naked people in Sunshine and Health nudist magazines. And that was partly an excitement for me. And I literally got stuck under a spirit of enjoying looking at pornography and pleasuring myself. Self-gratification. It was a secret obsession that lasted for the better part of 40 years. Okay? So if we have an epidemic problem, now you have a device in your pocket where secret pictures of people having fun and getting naked and having pleasure times, which is almost irresistible to look at. I mean, why do you go to a zoo? You go to a zoo to look at fascinating animals doing interesting things. You look at forms almost like yourself, but not like yourself, doing things and being alive. You look at living creatures. Well, my goodness, naked people who are excited and enjoying one another is one of the most irresistible things to look at. It's fascinating. So now we have these devices in our pockets that can sneak in a spirit of sexual pleasure and desire, which is a good natural obsession in us that can go crazy. So if there's a solution to being chill, check this out. In Leviticus 15, if you're honest about the flow with your closest friends, no big deal. The man's going to flow, the woman's going to flow. The woman flows by the hand of God. The man flows by his own hand, by his own choices. That is a fascinating difference. Meditate on that for a long time. Look at the fact of the self-control of the man stepping back and not going towards pleasure is a thing that the whole family needs to pray for. But it's a thing that sometimes is not resisted. Meditate on Leviticus 15 and understand that if you're in a big, happy, busy family with 8 or 9 kids and you're doing your best to try to follow the law of the God of Israel, you're going to say, okay, Tommy's untouchable today, so he can't ride on the saddle and he can't sit on the couch, but we're going to have him do this or that. Or actually, we're going to let him take a break and walk through the woods today. Just like let him take a break. And so the mommies and daddies are going to mention things, and then the little kids are going to say, how come Tommy's untouchable today? And then the mommies and daddies repeat again, because the man body is the baby fountain, and the woman body is the baby catcher. And the baby catcher body has to go through a whole bunch of burdens and difficulties. So we learn how to take special care of the women for 14 whole days out of the month. We treat them special for 14 days so that they know that they're loved and they're cared for, and they don't develop the Lashon Hara. They don't develop the bitter tongue, the brutality tongue. If you don't care for the women in their youth, if the women are brutalized and not cared for properly in their youth, they will become angry tongue, bitter tongue. And you're just going to have to deal with it. And you're going to have to love the little girl inside that has a spirit of anger and brutality around her. All right, number three. Don't worry about hyperinflation. Meditate on 1 Corinthians 11 and 1 Corinthians 7 for family wisdom and to start your personal friend group. 1 Corinthians 11, a piece of fabric can affect the spirit realm. Praying and prophesying with something covering your head as a male human being disgraces the torn veil and the crucifixion of Christ. Knock the coverings off the heads of the men who are in deep prayer, prophesying and declaring and preaching. Now, when you're out on the street in public, You can flow however feels right by the Spirit. But when you gather in a home to pray and to worship, don't you dare let the men do that stuff with their heads covered. I was sent into Jeremiah Johnson's church, and the Holy Spirit said, count the hats. I went in there were no head coverings on any of the women. And there were 25 men that had hats on while they were worshiping and dancing. And it says right there, Yeshua taught the 12, and Yeshua taught Paul. And Paul sneaked into Jerusalem to check and see if all the little details were the same as what the 12 had been taught in person. And they were blown away. They were like, wow, all the details that Paul was taught are exactly the same as what the 12 was taught. So anything that Paul writes is exactly what Jesus taught his 12 apostles in person. Don't you dare brush off words and say, oh, well, that's Paul. Oh, well, that's Paul. We don't want to pay attention to Paul. Watch out. There are lying, human, fleshly comfort demons that push away the responsibilities of the male human being and the female human being. We are all totally equal, but we're stuck in weird, different job descriptions, and we need to learn how the rich people are supposed to behave. We need to learn how the poor people are supposed to behave. We need to learn how the people who have been spiritually trained. I'm a person who has been spiritually trained, and I'm called to a higher standard of life and lifestyle and of talking and teaching. And I'm afraid sometimes to speak the truth to my friends that I love who are getting in danger. In 1 Corinthians 11, it says that if the women pray and prophesy with their heads uncovered, the men around them are going to be spiritually messed up, spiritually disgraceful. If the women pray and prophesy without their heads covering, especially in a perfect special gathering, not out on the street, in a special gathering where it is obviously a gathering for Jesus Christ, if you're not covering your head, the battles of the angels and demons around your life and your home and all of your possessions and your friends and your family, the battles of the angels and demons are going to be messed up because you are not obedient to what your Jesus taught. That's the bottom line. That's the reality. And all of 1 Corinthians 11 and 7 is fascinating because it teaches us about how cool it is to be single like Jesus. And that is part of the foundation of the starting of your personal friend group. Okay? So meditate on those three things. Gather the miracle videos because that helps your crazy little child heart to remember that the Spirit that loves you, wants to remind you of the miracle signs and wonders of Jesus. I mean, Paul says, look, if you don't believe what I'm saying to you, at least believe the miracles. At least believe the miracles. Okay, I got a pedal for dialysis. Peace be with you. Please, please, please do these things, especially you young people. Ellie and Sean, you will be wonderful to your friends, your boyfriend or your girlfriend, your loved ones, if you meditate on these things. Take some time, set some time aside, just find this stuff. I mean, just type out commentaries on Leviticus 15, commentaries on 1 Corinthians 11, commentaries on 1 Corinthians 7, and you will learn. You are in the internet age. You can find teachers and learn quick. And you don't have to be engaged in stupid, small-minded Christianity practices, much of which is disobedient. Hashat Zerah is the Hebrew term unnecessary flow of seed. The whole family is supposed to pray and help the men. Hey, you guys, do your best not to have an unnecessary flow of seed, because it touches your soul, it's your chi, you're losing life energy, and the biggest problem is this: fear and hiding. If you're doing a lot of flow of seed and it's being hidden, your heart is going to be removed from your spouse, your family. You're going to have all this hidden away stuff. And it is like, at least if you mark the calendar for yourself, guys, at least take account between you and God, or you and your dedicated person, your spouse, preferably, your marriage covenant person. Be real, at least with them, about any time that your seed has flowed. And you will literally have less fear in hiding. Look up the NoFap movement, NoFap. A bunch of guys and women that are swearing off pornography and masturbation. And they're like, I feel so much fresher. I don't feel anxious. I'm not hiding away from people. I don't get as bitter and angry. All of these things, which are basically demonic strongholds, are being removed from them. Little sneaky bad spirits are going off of them because they're being more strong and more self-controlled. This is simple teaching that was in place when Jesus was a kid, and this teaching is lost. Check it out. It's fun. It actually made my life so much fresher. All the best to all of you.